Dear friends, many times you've seen this in life. We blindly call some people good without ever questioning it. Everyone says, oh, she helps the poor, she marries off so many orphans. But how many of us really know the truth inside? This story is also about such a woman known as Shabana Khala. The entire village looked at her with deep respect. In her own words, she used to say she arranged marriages for orphans and poor girls and helped them earn halal livelihood. People believe she kept trying for a girl until her marriage was finally settled. But, friends, on the day this Shabana Khala died, something happened in the graveyard that left everyone present completely stunned. No one could believe their eyes. Can such a thing really happen? The janaza, the funeral prayer was over. Everyone together was lowering Shabana Khala's body into the grave. Dua and Darood were being recited. Exactly at that moment, suddenly a strange, rough, growling sound was heard, as if someone was screaming in extreme rage. But that sound was neither fully human nor like any normal animal. Before people could even look around properly, the bushes and trees nearby parted, dust rose up in the air, and a terrifying creature came running towards them. It was about the size of something between a tiger and a jackal, but its face was so twisted and filled with rage that just one look at it was enough to make anyone's chest tremble. That creature didn't touch a single person. It didn't jump on anyone. It went straight towards the mayyat, that is, towards the dead body of Shabana Khala lying beside the grave. Within a moment, it grabbed Shabana Khala's feet in its jaws, clamped its teeth down, and started dragging the entire body across the ground, scraping it against the soil, pulling it towards the forest beside the graveyard. People screamed out, "Hey, push it away! Hit it with sticks! The dead body is being dishonored!" Some picked up sticks, some threw stones, but that creature didn't seem to care about anything. Growling loudly, its teeth still clenched around Shabana Khala's body, it kept dragging her and disappeared into the forest. Friends, seeing this scene, it was as if the minds of everyone present in the graveyard stopped working. Some were saying, "Is this Allah's punishment?" Some were saying, "What kind of animal is this? I've never seen anything like it." And in everyone's eyes, there was only one question. How could such a thing happen to a good woman like Shabana Khala? This is where the story truly begins. Now we will go back a little in time to when Shabana Khala first came to this village. One day, Shabana Khala and her husband Rafiqul Mian suddenly came and settled in Shamnagar village. No one really knew where they used to live before or what they used to do. People only heard that they had come from the city and that they moved here to get away from the constant problems with relatives. All the other houses in the village were mud houses. Mud walls, tile or tin roofs. But Shabana Khala's house was completely different. Solid cement walls, red brick designs, a courtyard paved with bricks, flower pots and plants all around, like something out of a picture. Whoever entered that house would say, "Wow, how clean and tidy, what a beautiful home." Shabana Khala's behavior was also very soft and sweet. Her words were gentle, her smile was pleasant, she always checked on everyone. In no time, she won the hearts of the village women. After a few days, she started teaching the girls Quran, teaching them how to pray, giving Islamic lessons. In the mornings, her veranda became like a small gathering. Village girls and children would sit in a circle, and in her soft voice, Shabana Khala would teach them to recite Quran and narrate stories from Hadith. Along with that, she was also an educated woman from the city, so in the afternoons, she gave tuition. The local school-going kids would come to her to study English and math. This is how Shabana Khala slowly became known to everyone as a good person. One day, an unofficial piece of news started spreading around the village that Shabana Khala is arranging a girl's marriage abroad from this very village. Marriage abroad? The people of Shamnagar hadn't even dreamt of such a thing. In this village, the daughter of Haji the Barber, named Rukhsana, was very beautiful. Fair skin, bluish eyes, a face like a doll. She wasn't very educated, but she was shy, quiet and well-mannered. The first day Shabana Khala saw Rukhsana, a plan came into her mind. One day she called Rukhsana's mother and said, "Listen, sister, your daughter is one in a million. Allah has given her exceptional beauty. If we can put her on the right platform, she will spend the rest of her life in comfort with money and ease." Her mother was shocked. "We are poor people, Khala. Where would my daughter get such a fate? For us, it's our destiny to marry her off into another poor household." Shabana Khala smiled and said, "No, don't say that. In this city and abroad, there are many rich men who want to marry simple, modest girls from the village. They will go crazy when they see your daughter's beauty. Why don't I at least try?" Hearing this, Rukhsana lowered her head in shyness, and in her mother's eyes, a new kind of open-eyed dream began to rise. All her life, she had never thought like this, but now suddenly she was thinking, could my daughter really walk on foreign soil one day? A few days later, Shabana Khala went to the city, to Madina Bazar, as she often did. But this time when she returned, she was not alone. With her came a well-dressed woman and a middle-aged man, grey in his hair, a serious face, a costly watch on his wrist. Shabana took them straight to Rukhsana's house. There they sat and talked almost endlessly. They said that this man had a very rich son who lived abroad, working in Dubai. The boy was religious, prayed regularly, decent and handsome. He would keep his wife like a princess. There would be a separate flat, car, servants, all for her. They showed several photos of the boy, wearing suit and tie, standing beside a car, posing and smiling in front of an office building. Rukhsana's parents and Rukhsana herself were completely mesmerized by the photos. To the eyes of a poor family, such pictures look exactly like a prince from a fairy tale. Very quickly their hearts softened. There would be no demand for dowry, they said. On the contrary, they would put some money directly into Rukhsana's hands. Hearing that, there remained nothing left to question. Before leaving, the woman placed a thick bundle of new green and yellow notes in Rukhsana's hands. Rukhsana stared at the money as if in a dream, feeling like she was no longer standing on the ground, but walking in the sky. A few days later, through a scholar in the city, the nikah was performed over a phone call. Video call, documents, everything took place in Shabana Khala's house. The villagers watched in amazement. A girl's marriage, that too with a foreign groom, and the nikah is happening over the phone. But on Shabana Khala's face, there was such confidence, such religious talk. In this age, sisters, marriages also happen like this. As long as the conditions are correct, it is valid. Within a month, Rukhsana was fully dressed up and sent off. First they took her to the city, then her documents were prepared, and after a few more months, Rukhsana went abroad. After that, from time to time, there were video calls, phone calls. "I'm very happy, Ma. My in-laws are very good people. Please keep praying for me." Every month, money started arriving through mobile banking and hundi. Within 2 or 3 years, Rukhsana's father demolished his tin-roofed shack and built a 2-storied brick house. Her brothers got admitted to college, and her younger sisters were married into good families. Across the village, people were saying, "Have you seen? Shabana Khala completely changed that family's fate. Their daughter is abroad, money is flowing in, their house and everything has changed." Now everyone had only one thing to say. "Shabana Khala, if only our daughters' marriages could also be in your hands." Then Shabana Khala would smile and say, "All the girls of this village are like my own daughters. Whoever Allah has written it for, I only try to open the way." Day by day, her respect, her name, her fame, as a pious woman, everything kept growing. And exactly here, my friends, inside this glittering picture, a dark shadow slowly began to form. And in the next part, we will gradually learn about that shadow. In the middle of all this fame and reputation of Shabana Khala, there was her own small family, her husband, Rafiqul Mia, and their only daughter, Ariba. Ariba was a strange kind of girl. She wasn't very beautiful in looks, but there was a certain seriousness in her eyes and face, a sense of inner strength in her character. She spoke very little, smiled very rarely. When the village girls would come to Shabana Khala's house laughing and chatting, Ariba would sit alone inside her room. From childhood, Shabana Khala taught her Quran, Salah, Tahajjud, everything. Ariba tried to remain in a state of wudu most of the time. At night, when everyone slept, she would get up silently and stand in Tahajjud prayer. But she had one big issue. She was very hot-tempered and serious. She couldn't easily accept people or get close to them. If something didn't sit right with her, she would sulk, stop talking completely. The village women would say, "This girl is very moody. If she stays like this, it'll be hard to get her married. How can someone live with such behavior?" And they never forgot to add another line, "Look, Shabana Khala is marrying off so many girls in the village, but about her own daughter's marriage, no one ever hears a word." One day, a woman came and spoke very directly. "Shabana Appa, can I say something? Don't mind. You've arranged so many girls' marriages,
But are you not getting any good proposals for your own daughter? Your reputation goes beyond Shamnagar." Shabana Khala's face hardened. There was a trace of discomfort and irritation in her eyes. "Listen, sister, I have only one daughter. Should I send her away and live alone? The village girls and their families come to me themselves and say, 'Khala, arrange our daughter's marriage.' I only open a path for them. I don't force anyone by going to their homes. I want to keep my daughter with me. Is that wrong?" The woman smiled slightly and said, "That's fine, but there are good homes abroad too. No matter how much you want to keep her close, one day she will have to go to her in-laws' house anyway." Hearing that, Shabana Khala's face turned even redder. Her voice rose slightly. "I know where and how my daughter's marriage will happen. For her, I have no foreign dreams. Whatever I have in my own home, alhamdulillah, I am happy with that." From a distance, Ariba was listening to this entire conversation. Inside her, a strange mix of pain, discomfort, and anger was building up. That very night, a heated argument broke out between Shabana Khala and her husband Rafiqul. Rafiqul Mia, who had been quiet the whole day, suddenly burst out at night. "Shabana, what I heard in the village today is making my heart tremble. How long have you been doing this? I keep thinking, what answer will I give to Allah?" Shabana frowned and said, "Which work are you talking about? Is marrying off orphans and poor girls a sin?" Lowering his voice, Rafiqul said, "You and I both know what you are doing is not just marriage. Behind all of this, there is something much darker. That organization in the city, the people you mix with, I now understand what their real work is. Once I was blind, but now my eyes are open." Shabana glared at him. "Are you trying to turn me into a criminal? How many households I have brought happiness to, is that all a lie? Aren't those girls sending money? Aren't their families living well?" Their argument slowly grew louder and louder. Inside the house, only these words were echoing. "You are at fault. No, you are." Accusation after accusation. Behind the door, Ariba heard everything. She ran in to stop their fight. "Abu, Ammu, please stop. Everyone can hear you. What will the villagers think if they come to know? You were quiet all this time. Why are you suddenly saying all this? All these years, weren't you also part of the same work with Ummul?" Rafiqul Mia froze. There was shame on his face, regret in his eyes. "Yes, I was wrong. Allah may not forgive me, but for my daughter's sake, I no longer want to stay on this sinful path, Ariba. The fire I have lit in other people's homes, if one day that same fire reaches our own home, then what will we do?" Ariba stood there with her jaw set and fists clenched. In her gaze, there were 1,000 questions and 1,000 accusations at once. That night, the argument eventually died down. Everyone quietly went to their own rooms. But friends, that very night something happened that completely turned the direction of this story. The night grew deep. The village was asleep. Only the distant barking of dogs could be heard. Ariba couldn't fall asleep. Her mother's words kept replaying in her head again and again. Suddenly, she heard a faint crying sound coming from the corridor. The sound was coming from her mother's room. Ariba muttered to herself, "Again, was crying and making a scene in the middle of the night?" Slowly, she walked towards her mother's room. From inside, she could hear sobbing and muffled sounds. She pushed the door and stepped inside, and the scene she saw in front of her felt like someone had dropped a block of ice into her chest. On the floor beside the bed lay the lifeless body of Rafiqul Mia. His eyes were half open, and on his face there was a strange expression of terror. Shabana Khala was sitting beside him, beating her chest and crying, "Oh no, my husband had a heart attack and left me. Allah, you have made me destitute." Ariba stood there frozen for a while. In her mind, one thought kept echoing. Was this really just a heart attack, or something more? But she couldn't say anything. Slowly, people started gathering around. Someone called a doctor. After Fajr Azan, it was declared, "No, he cannot be saved anymore." Ariba's voice broke. Crying loudly, she looked at her mother and shouted, "This is all your fault, Ammu, yours. If you hadn't done those things, maybe Abu would still be alive today." The men and women packed into the crowded room were shocked at this sight. Someone shouted at Ariba, "You girl, how can you speak like that to your own mother? Have you gone mad after losing your father?" Shabana Khala then said in a broken voice, "My daughter is still young. She doesn't understand what she is saying. May Allah guide her." Everyone turned back towards Shabana Khala again. Some held her hands to comfort her. Some cried and said, "Your husband was a good man. May Allah grant him Jannah." And like this, Rafiqul Mia's janazah and burial were completed. In the eyes of the villagers, Shabana Khala now became even more of a mazluma, a wronged woman, even more kind, even more deserving of sympathy. But inside Ariba's eyes, another kind of fire kept growing. The fire of blame, the fire of wanting to know the truth. This fire made her, in the days that followed, even more serious, even more angry and distant. Her inner hatred towards her mother grew, little by little, every single day. This invisible wall, this icy distance that formed between mother and daughter, and the dark truth hiding behind it. After all of this would come the night of Shabana Khala's own death and the terrifying appearance of that monster.
After the burial of Rafiqul Mia, even the air of Shamnagar village seemed to change. On the outside, everything looked normal, but inside Shabana Khala's house, it was as if an invisible wall of ice had risen up. On one side stood the mother, and on the other, the daughter Ariba. People from the village often came to offer condolences. Someone would bring a plate of rice. Someone would bring a little money. They would sit with Shabana Khala and say, "Appa, stay strong. Allah is with those who are patient." And slowly, the topic would turn towards Ariba's behavior. "Your daughter has become very ill-tempered, Appa. She speaks to her own mother with such bitterness. At her father's funeral, she cried so much, but in front of her mother, she doesn't show even a drop of softness." When these words reached Shabana Khala's ears, she would whisper, "May Allah guide her. My daughter has a hot temper, but there's nothing evil in her heart." But the truth was, inside Ariba, a storm of fear and hatred was raging. She knew her mother was not just a kind lady who arranges marriages. There was something much darker than that. But proof? Nothing written anywhere. Everything was just phone calls, city people, and the voices and tears of girls lost on foreign soil. Meanwhile, before even a month had passed, the families of village girls started chasing after Shabana Khala again. "Appa, can I tell you something? If you could somehow send our little princess abroad the way you did before. I have a younger daughter too, a bit plump but very beautiful. If you know of any good foreign proposal for her, please tell us." With a light smile on her lips, Shabana Khala would reply, "Keep praying. If Allah arranges something good, I'll try my best. But remember, not every girl has abroad written in her fate." Listening to these conversations from a distance, the wound inside Ariba's chest kept getting deeper. That night of her parents' quarrel came back to her again and again. Her father's face, his lifeless body, and her mother's heart attack story. Like this, a month passed. Inside the house, conversations became fewer. Between mother and daughter, only necessary words were exchanged, and even those were very brief. Then one night, midnight had passed. There was a heavy silence in the air. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. Sometimes the leaves rustled softly in the wind. Ariba lay in her room, unable to sleep, staring up at the ceiling. Suddenly, she clearly heard her mother screaming, a broken, suffocated scream. "Save me! Allah, save me!" Ariba's whole body tingled. She sat on the bed for a while, listening carefully. Then again, and then, silence. In an annoyed tone, under her breath, Ariba said, "This woman again. What kind of drama is she starting in the middle of the night? Who knows what she's doing now?" But the uneasiness inside her wouldn't let her rest. She quietly opened her door, walked through the corridor, and stopped in front of her mother's room. Inside,
It was completely silent. No crying, no soft sounds, nothing. The door was half open. Ariba pushed it and stepped inside. In the dim light of the room, what she saw made her chest jolt sharply. Shabana Khala was lying motionless on the bed. Her eyes were half open. There was a little foam at the corner of her lips. No breath in her body. The blanket had slipped to one side, and one arm was hanging limply off the side of the bed. No tears came to Ariba's eyes, but her throat got dry. In a cold voice, talking to herself, she said, "So finally, this night has come, Amu." Then she turned around and walked out of the house, going to the next door and banging on Bashira Kala's door. Kala, open the door." Startled, Bashira Kala opened it and saw Ariba standing at the threshold, her face completely expressionless. "What happened, child? At this hour of the night? My mother has died." Not a word more, not a word less. Bashira Kala rushed to Shabana Khala's room, and within a short time, the news spread throughout the neighborhood. Shabana Appa is no more. Before dawn broke, Shamnagar was fully awake. Some came running on foot, some on bicycles, some on rickshaws. The women started wailing and crying, "Oh, Shabana Appa, you've left us all as orphans. You married off our daughters. Now who will put henna on their hands?" Ariba sat in a corner, her eyes dry, her face completely pale. Looking at her, the women whispered, "Didn't you see how she cried at her father's funeral? And now, hearing of her mother's death, not a single tear in her eyes? She has always behaved like this with her mother. Now you can tell what kind of girl she is. May Allah never give such a stone-hearted daughter to anyone." Ariba heard all this, but said nothing. In her heart, only one thought spun around. If only they knew the truth. If only they knew whether she even deserved to be called mother. By midday, the preparations for Shabana Khala's janazah were complete. The villagers themselves arranged everything for the shroud and burial. The Imam Sahib, that is, Maulana Karamuddin, personally came forward to supervise it all. After the janazah, everyone together lifted the body and headed towards the graveyard. Standing silently in the courtyard, Ariba watched her mother's corpse disappear into an invisible distance above everyone's heads. Once the house was empty and the door was closed, the same Ariba, whom everyone thought of as stone-hearted, sat alone inside and broke down in heartbreaking sobs. No one saw her then. They only saw the dryness of her eyes, not the storm of tears inside. Meanwhile, in the graveyard, exactly that incident took place, which we had glimpsed at the beginning of this story. The body placed beside the grave, everyone standing around to make dua, and then the terrifying arrival of that creature. The beast ran in, grabbed the body, and dragged it into the forest, vanishing from sight. The villagers screamed, shouted, ran after it. Sticks and stones flew, but nothing worked. The Imam Sahib called out to everyone, "Stop, all of you, stop! What will running like this do? First, we must try to understand what kind of sign from all of this might be." The creature did not appear again. It only left behind fear, shock, and 1,000 questions. How could such a thing happen to the body of a so-called pious woman? And in search of the answer to that question, the next events began.
After that terrifying incident in the graveyard, the young men of the village spent 2 to 3 hours searching the entire forest. Some held sticks, some had machetes, some carried torches. The sun had risen high overhead, crickets were shrilling, and the wind howled softly through the gaps in the leaves. In the end, they returned empty-handed. Standing before the Imam Sahib, they said, "Hazur, we searched everywhere, but neither that creature nor the body could be found.
There is nothing anywhere in the forest." Hearing this, the murmuring of the people gathered near the graveyard grew louder. "O Allah, where did the body go? Is this the work of jinns, or is some kind of divine wrath descending from Allah?" Maulana Karimuddin stood silently for a while. Lines of tension and thought ran across his face. His eyes held a heavy seriousness. When everyone was looking at him in expectation, he cleared his throat and slowly said, "Brothers, I do not have the knowledge of the unseen. Only Allah knows everything. But one thing is true. When such a strange thing happens with a dead body, when the grave waits for the mayit, yet the mayit disappears, then we must think, what did this person do in their lifetime that even after death, their body is not finding peace?" Hearing this, some protested, some fell silent. One man stood up and said, "Huzur, what are you saying? Shabana Appa was such a good woman. She married off so many poor girls. Huzur, my daughter's marriage was done abroad through her. Now my home is full of peace and happiness. Was she doing something bad? Because of her, we received money, built our house, educated our children." Imam Sahib looked around at everyone once, then said gently, "Listen, brothers, just because someone behaves kindly with the poor doesn't automatically make them pious in Allah's eyes. Building a mosque or giving charity doesn't guarantee Jannah either. Many times, show-off good deeds are used to hide sins buried deep inside. The sins that can be hidden from people can never be hidden from Allah." People's faces went blank. They began looking at each other in confusion. After a brief pause, Imam Sahib said, "I think, right now, there is only one person who can answer this question. Shabana's daughter, Ariba." Everyone was a bit startled. "That girl? She's very harsh in nature, Huzur. She didn't even shed a tear at her mother's funeral." With firm voice, Imam Sahib said, "Whatever she may be, she was the closest person to her mother. She knows the inside story of that home better than anyone. Let's all go to her, but no one will argue, no one will threaten. We will only go to find out the truth." That afternoon, a few elders of the village and some women went with Maulana Karimuddin to Shabana Khala's house. The door of the house was locked from inside. On the other side of the door, silence. After a moment, Bashira Khala called out, "Ariba, child, open the door. Our Huzur has come. We want to talk to you a little." After a short silence, Ariba herself opened the door. Her eyes were slightly red, as if she had been crying, but her face was very firm, and her voice was cold. "Why are so many of you here at this time? You do realize I am alone in this house, don't you?" Many in the village didn't like her words. Someone whispered, "See, this is what you call a wild forest girl." But Maulana Karimuddin smiled softly and said, "Child, your caution is good. In today's world, any girl living alone should be this careful. We haven't come to add to your pain. Will you let us sit a while?" Ariba stayed quiet for a moment, then moved aside. Everyone sat down in the courtyard or on the veranda. Very slowly, in a calm voice, Imam Sahib described the whole incident, the roar of the creature, the body being dragged away, the fruitless search in the forest. As she listened, the color of Ariba's face changed several times. In her eyes appeared a strange mixture of terror and anguish. She stayed silent for a long time, then suddenly spoke. I've been afraid of this day for a long time, Huzur." Everyone was quiet. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. "I used to think, one day,
Allah will definitely take account of my mother's deeds, but that He would do it like this, in front of everyone, that He would allow such a thing with my mother's dead body, I never imagined. For the first time, tears glimmered in Ariba's eyes. Her voice trembled as she said, "You all know who Shabana Khala was, but who my mother truly was, only I know that." Now the village women moved closer. Some squeezed each other's hands. Some whispered, "Now let's hear what's in the girl's heart." Ariba took a deep breath. Then she began. "My mother was very beautiful from a young age. She was proud of her beauty, and she despised poverty. She married my father by her own choice, left her family, and moved with him from the city to this village. But poverty doesn't go away just because you complain. It stays inside the heart like a burning fire. Mother would always say, 'I will not die poor. I will become rich again.'" Around that time, an old friend from the city came to visit my mother. She told her, "Listen, there is an organization that sends girls abroad. They say it's for marriage or good jobs. But once there, they are made to do wrong things. But the money is a lot of money. If you join them, your poverty will disappear." At first, Mother was hesitant. Then one day she said, "I'm not forcing anyone. If we send them off in marriage, what's the harm? They'll live in comfort anyway." After that, Mother came to Shyamnagar. She told everyone she could arrange marriage proposals abroad. She took photos of poor, beautiful, less educated girls, wrote down their names, ages, details, and sent everything to the city. Those people abroad were not really grooms. Most of them were traffickers. Some were fake husbands for show. The real intention was to use the girls' bodies and labor to make money. The men sat open-mouthed. The women placed hands on their foreheads in shock. "Is this true?" With her head bowed, Ariba said, "They couldn't bear to see you crying, Uncle, yet they didn't have the freedom to tell you what was happening to them." Then she paused again and continued, "You might ask, what did your father do in all this?" At first, Abu said nothing either. Money was coming into the house. Slowly, poverty was disappearing. Both my parents were benefiting. But once I was born, one day Abu suddenly said, "Today we are throwing other people's daughters into the fire. What if tomorrow that same fire reaches our own house? What if our Ariba faces the same fate?" Abu tried to convince Mother, "Let's leave this work. We'll stay poor if we have to, but we won't destroy anyone's home." But Mother had become addicted to the taste of money. She didn't want to go back. From then on, their fights started. The same fights that you heard that night, the very night before Abu died. Saying this, Ariba covered her face with both hands and cried for a while. Everyone sat there in stunned silence. Then, in a very low voice, she said, "That night, Abu again tried to convince Mother. Mother told him, 'If you expose this work, everything will be over for me.' Thinking that everyone had gone to sleep after the argument, I went back to my room. But later, in the night, hearing noise again, I awoke. Through the crack in the door, I saw Abu was lying on the bed, and Mother was pressing a pillow over his face. For a while, everything became quiet. Mother removed the pillow and sat there in silence. Then in the morning, she told everyone he died of a heart attack. Huzur, the woman you all saw as a pious Shabana Khala, to me, she is the murderer of her own husband." As soon as these words left her lips, the tone of crying inside the room changed completely. Now the women were not only crying for Shabana Khala, but they were also crying for their own daughters and for their own foolish trust.
As soon as Ariba finished speaking, the people inside the room could no longer sit still. One man suddenly stood up and roared, "This girl has opened our eyes, but for what Shabana has done, she must receive punishment." Another, trembling with anger, said, "Huzur, we won't spare this girl either. She knew everything all this time and didn't tell anyone." Some of the young men moved towards Ariba, eyes burning with rage, fists clenched. Ariba did not stand up, nor did she defend herself. With her head bowed, she only said, "If you want, you can beat me too. But when I found out the truth, I tried to stop my mother. That's why she never looked kindly at me. You yourselves used to say, the girl is hot-tempered and behaves badly with her mother. Now you understand why." At that moment, Maulana Karimuddin spoke out in a firm voice. "Stop, not one of you will raise a hand. This girl has stood before us today and revealed her own mother's sins. That is no small courage. She could have stayed silent. Then her mother's punishment would have remained only in the grave and none of us would have been warned. If we now punish this girl, we will close the doors of truth-telling forever." Some lowered their heads. Tears fell from some eyes. Others' lips trembled. Imam Sahib now looked at Ariba and said, "Child, tell me just one thing. What do you want for your mother now?" Wiping her tears, Ariba replied in a calm voice, "I know, Huzur, my mother has committed very great sins. She made many people cry in this world. Allah can give her whatever punishment He wishes. Knowing all this, I cannot call her pious. Even then my heart wants that at least her body is no longer dishonored. No matter how many sins she committed, she is still my mother. If you can, please find her corpse and give her a proper grave. The rest is between Allah and her. He will take account as He wills." Silence fell over the room again. Maulana Karimuddin sighed and said, "All right, child, we will go back to the forest and search again. If Allah wills, we will find her. Then we will bury her. We won't take any pride in it. We won't glorify it. We will simply pray that Allah protects all of us from such sins." The next morning, Imam Sahib set out again towards the forest with a few brave and strong young men. By noon, they returned. Seeing their faces, the villagers understood they have found the body. Yes, in one corner of the forest, behind a cluster of trees, lay the mutilated and torn body of Shabana Khala. Part of her face was ripped, her arms and legs were bitten in many places. Even so, it was recognizable. It was indeed Shabana Khala. They quickly dug a pit, wrapped her body tightly in white cloth, recited a few duas, and silently buried her. No crowd, no loud wailing, just a quiet, frightened burial. Upon returning, Imam Sahib sent word to Ariba, "Your mother has been buried." Ariba was sitting in the veranda. Hearing the news, she closed her eyes. Only one sentence came from her lips, "Alhamdulillah. Now only Allah and she know what account will take place between them." What happened next took place very quietly. The next morning, the villagers saw a padlock hanging on the door of Shabana Khala's house. Someone said, "Where has the girl gone? Didn't she say anything to anyone?" A couple of people entered and saw some old furniture, a broken cupboard, an empty bed, everything else gone. None of Ariba's clothes, books or belongings were there. A few days later, a news spread, Maulana Karimuddin has sent Ariba to his brother in another city. He had written in a letter, "The girl has a hot temper, but inside she's straight, truthful, she hates sin. If your elder son agrees, let him marry this girl and allow her to look after your home. Inshallah, she will take good care of your family." A few months later, another news floated back. Ariba has gotten married. In a new city, in a new life, she's living quietly behind the veil, managing her household in peace. Ariba never contacted anyone in Shamnagar again. No phone calls, no letters, no messages through acquaintances. The villagers slowly got used to it. No one openly called Shabana Khala good anymore. When they spoke of her, they whispered in shame and fear, "We thought she was a righteous woman. In reality, who knows how many girls she abandoned to their fate." When Ariba's name came up, some would say, "The girl was strict, but she did not lie."
Now, if we go back to the very beginning of this story, we remember the moment, right when the body was being lowered into the grave, a strange creature suddenly appeared and dragged away the corpse of Shabana Khala. Friends, that might have been a real animal, or it might have been a vehicle of divine punishment from Allah. We cannot say for certain, but one thing is clear: sins never remain hidden forever. We can divide Shabana Khala's life into two parts. One, the polished image shown to the world. A clean, tidy home, teaching Quran, giving tuitions, arranging marriages abroad for village girls. Respect, honor, fame in the village as a pious woman. 2. The secret darkness inside. Links with trafficking gangs, sending girls abroad in the name of marriage or jobs, then pushing them into immoral work. Killing her own husband for trying to stop her. Using the prayers of the poor to cover the cries of countless girls. The people of the world saw only the first picture. No one saw the second. The only one who saw it fully was Allah and His judgment. That's why, standing at the edge of her grave, an imam was forced to say, "It seems that Allah's punishment has descended on this mayyat." We are not certain, but the events were such that it's hard to treat it like just an ordinary death. In this story, the person we thought was good all along wasn't truly good. And the one we thought of as harsh, rude, stone-hearted, that Ariba, was actually a helpless soul standing on the side of truth. Friends, there are some big lessons here that we must remember. 1. Speeches, charity, and sweet words do not prove someone is truly righteous. A person who constantly talks about religion, quotes Quran and Hadith, builds mosques and madrasas, may still be drowning in major sins behind the scenes. We should not blindly turn anyone into an angel. We should love people, respect them, but leave the final judgment to Allah alone. 2. Deception in the name of marriage and sending abroad is still a reality today. This story is not just a tale. Even today, there are many people in our society who promise marriage abroad, offer great jobs overseas, say she'll live like a princess. But behind these promises, they trade human beings, sell them, and snatch away their entire lives. So, if someone suddenly appears with a glittering foreign proposal, instead of believing blindly, we must investigate in detail twice, thrice, as much as needed. 3. Sin can be hidden, but its punishment cannot. Shabana Khala hid her sins all her life. No one in the village knew. People almost considered her a wali, friend of Allah. But at the edge of the grave, just before burial, a massive truth broke open. Her body couldn't even be placed in the grave in peace. A creature dragged her away. Her body was insulted and torn in the forest, and in the end, she had to be buried quietly, hidden away. No matter how much the world saw her as righteous, her true reality still came out in the open. 4. Telling the truth is hard, but someone has to do it. If Ariba had stayed silent, the villagers would never have known what was happening to their daughters. Those girls who called and said, "We are fine," no one would ever have understood their tears. In that case, Shabana Khala would have remained a pious helper of the poor in people's eyes, while those girls would continue living in hell. Ariba exposed all her mother's sins. It was extremely painful for her, but she did not hide the truth. Perhaps for that reason, Allah opened a new life for her, in a new city, in a new home, with a new identity. 5. Be cautious about your life, your family, and your children. Friends, there are many Shabana Khalas around us. Maybe their names are different, but their character is the same. Pious on the outside, dark inside. Earning money in the name of helping the poor. Using marriage as a business. Showing dreams to girls and then abandoning them in a nightmare. We must verify every marriage proposal carefully, investigate foreign proposals very seriously, never trust anyone blindly. Teach our children everything clearly so that they do not fall into traps out of ignorance. In the end, friends, the core message of this story is, the real proof of righteousness is not in people's words, but in a person's actions and in how Allah judges them. And no matter how much you try to hide a sin, one day it will come out, either in this world or inside the grave or on the day of judgment.